We have with us Dr. Sharada Chandrasekharan, who is currently the head of the institution and academic director for Whitefield Global Schools, Bangalore. She has close to 4 decades of teaching experience in various schools across India. Under her leadership, all these institutions have received several national and international awards in various activities, as well as excellence in academics. The flagship programs that she created in these schools have become the most participating events of schools every year. Dr. Sharada holds a MA MPhil B.Ed as educational qualifications along with an honorary doctorate in ethical learning. She also holds a certificate in entrepreneurship from ISB Hyderabad. Among her many achievements and accolades till date, to name a few, she has trained 1,000 plus principals, 5,000 plus teachers throughout her career. She is the faculty for ISB to train the principals of Punjab State Government Schools in the topic competency-based curriculum. She has won the Outstanding Educator Gold Award for the Mumbai region, honored with Indian Air Force Commandant's Commendation, recipient of Effective Principal from Education Today, Lifetime Achievement Award from DK Education. She is known in academic circle for inculcating and practicing innovative and creative methods of teaching. Being proficient in 7 Indian classical forms and in Western dance forms like waltz and salsa, she has created one-of-a-kind teaching, learning practices for learning science concepts through dance forms such as Odissi, concepts of geometry through football, and Avadhanam for enhancing language skills. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Whenever I listen about myself, I'll be wondering, did I do all this? Yeah, thank you. And I know that there is always a saying, I do not know how many are there in the audience, but you should never be the last one to eat, neither you should be the last one to speak. Because when you are the last one to eat, there will be nothing left to eat. When you are last one to speak, there will be hardly any audience left. So I do not know, but I thought that with this kind of whatever introduction you gave, I will take it up, and with all my zeal and energy, I'm going to jump into this. First of all, I'm really, really thankful to IIM that a new topic I have worked on, that is constructivism. Okay. And second thing, I'm so happy that even though I'm the last one today, the one who spoke before me has actually set the entire platform, for constructivism. So 2 good things happen, and that's what happens if you are the last speaker. Okay, so you have always something to say, and you can pick up from there and build a lot of things from there. It seems when, I love to tell stories, but I'll tell a very small story now because there are many more stories to come. It seems when Prahlada was sent to his gurus, Chandamarka, that go and learn, okay? Take him, teach him everything, and teach what is he needs to know. Okay, that time it was only Hiranyakashipu to be the god and all that he sent. Hiranyakashipu sent. And the boy was taken to Gurukul, and after some time, father wanted to assess how much has the child learned, his own son learned. So he called his son home, very cute looking Prahlada, 5-year-old, and came home, and this father cajoled and made him sit in the laps, nicely kissed and asked, I believe, Beta, what did you learn? And how is your Gurukul teaching going on? So Prahlada told, I believe, Father, all that the teacher wants to teach is teaching. Okay, they're teaching all that they want to teach. And all that I want to learn, I'm learning. Okay, so then what happened later, that what he learned and what they were taught, what they taught, and what the canyon of a gap. Why did I tell you this? Normally today, especially when we are onto online mode, many a time this kind of a scenario is happening, that all that the teacher wants to teach, she teaches, and all that the child wants to learn, the child learns. So do we have the connect? And I think from morning you would have been listening to this, that what is the gap and how to fill the gap. And we have hit on the same thing. But what has this constructivism got to do with this? Normally, when we have such a jargon of words, when people use a jargon of words, we will get switched off. We'll feel that, okay, this is not meant for us. But darlings, we are doing it. So don't worry about it, that what is this constructivism, okay? So when we ask this by the end of this session, what is that you are all going to learn is that you can create a teaching learning processes incorporating constructivism and assessments as learning tools. You can adapt and adapt to various forms of constructivist activities as well as assessments to enhance learning. You can determine the process to be adopted to use various assessment forms and measure the learning and growth perspective of the learners. These 4 are today's LO for my session. I hope I will be able to do justice in this time without boring you. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I will not bore you. So now the question comes, what is this jargon of a word called constructivism? Now it is showing one hammer here, one tool here, one screwdriver here. So is it that we are making them into some kind of carpenters and electricians, and are we going to make them fix something? Is it about that? Are they going to construct something? It is actually about learning is constructed through meaningful real world experiences. That is what is the constructivism about. So it is about building a culture of problem solving. Students' experience and background is taken as a base. It is constructed by the student, and it is an active engagement of the student, and it is completely from students' perspective. Okay, now there are few people like me who are okay, and where we had just check and talk classrooms, okay, and whatever we learned, and again, like Prahalada, what all teacher wants to teach, the teacher taught, what all we want to learn, we learned, and later on our experiences taught us a lot of things. Then only we thought that we have not learned quite a lot of things we needed to learn during the classrooms. Now the time has changed. Many of you are getting into quite a lot of experiential learning in your classrooms, and quite a lot of you are doing a fantastic job. So are we doing this constructivism? Yes. So how are you doing? Do you know that it is constructivism is number one. So if once you come to know, you will know that you are doing. Second thing is that if you are not doing, don't worry about it, you will start doing. And before I go for this, I'll tell you one small experience I had from one teacher some 20 years ago, in 2000. I was traveling by a train, and I told this n number of times. If you see any of my videos without this example, it never happens. And this teacher who was traveling along with me I was traveling from Coimbatore, and this teacher started from Cochin, I think, and we were traveling towards Vizag. And she told me that she works as a voluntary teacher with the Ajim Premji Foundation. So she was helping some small village schools, children to learn. So she gave me one particular activity she takes up from her students to teach the physics concept sound. Okay. Now, what did she do? She asked all of them to make noise, sound in the classroom. So what is that they need to do? Any kind of a sound. They can clap, they can say ah, they can whistle, they can say oh, okay, they can hit the table, they can go out to the garden, pick up some leaves and make that bura, the pee kind of a thing, and make noise. Anything. First 10 minutes were chaotic class. After 10 minutes, she tells them quiet. Then she tells them, I'm giving you 5 minutes time. Please write down, how did you get that sound? Now the child has to think, how did he or she get that sound? Once they think how they got the sound and they write, all of them share with the teacher, one after other. And then wherever required, a little bit of a correction here, a little bit of a correction there, they understood what is sound, what is the definition of sound, and how the sound is created, and what is the importance of sound. This, the teacher's role is only a facilitator role. a typical example of constructivism. Here, the students' previous experience matters a lot, and the feedback and feed forward matters a lot. First experience to second experience, that journey is the learning of the child. That is what is constructivism about. When I'm talking about assessments, why am I talking about constructivism? You are thinking, unless until we know what is constructivism, we will not know what is the role of assessments into that. That's why I'm taking you to the constructivism. Okay. So now, what is it? It's a learning theory found in psychology, which explains how people might acquire knowledge and learn. It therefore has a direct application to education. हमने 100 लोगों से पूछा, we have 100 लोग, 100 people, more than 100,000, 2,000 lakh people is our Google Mata. Anything you ask, she will have an answer. So this is the answer given by our Google. What is constructivism? The theory suggests that humans construct knowledge and meaning from their experiences. Yeah. And research support for constructivist teaching techniques has been mixed, with some research supporting these techniques and other research contradicting these results. So let us keep that aside. But we invent our own concepts and ideas, link it to what we already know, and this meaning-making theory of learning is called constructivism. That means I learn through my own experience. You learn through your own experience, and some kind of a very constructive feedback and feed forward is given to you. Based on this feedback and feed forward, you reframe your learning and confirm the learning, and that is what called constructivism. And this is completely self-learning technique. What is the role of teacher? We are going to see now. So what is that the students going to do? They are going to interpret based on their experience. They to detect misconceptions, errors and omissions in learning and correct these, or is also their responsibility. But the second step is done by the teachers. So first, what will the teachers do? The teachers will allow the learners to interpret, experience and interpret. They stand as a facilitator. Okay. And to detect misconceptions, errors and omissions in learning and correct these misconceptions is the responsibility of the teacher. So how does the teacher do? First, the teacher gives an experience to the children of any concept they want to learn. As I told you about the sound, as I'm talking about, like, first of all, a second standard child wants to know the value of money. Then make the child experience that for 10 rupees what the child will get, or 5 rupees what the child gets. And is that really value for money? Make the child experience it. Then give a facilitation to know, to think, and to take away the misconceptions and errors, and make the child understand what is actually the value. That means, can the child get more than what the child has got? And again, make the child re-experience it, then come to a conclusion. The child has learned value for money. That is what the learning outcome for that. So this is what a teacher will be doing. And what is the classroom ambience for it is very active and experiential in nature. Okay, it is a pre-framed classroom, and the classroom's LO, that is the TLP, the lesson plan, is extremely well defined and well planned step by step, and the teacher is ready to give a feed forward to the children and again make them re-experience to do a better job, leaving all the misconceptions and errors and omissions, and to frame, to do a better experience, so that the child's learning happens through experiencing, through deciding, through interpreting, and through defining it by the child. So it is completely the learner-centric. So this is completely based on reflections and feed forward. The feed forward takes a major role in constructivism. So why constructivism? Big deal. Because this makes the learning as an active and friendly process. It makes the learners select and renovate the information. It is not a silent passive learning. Now passive learning is happening. I'm not involving you in my teaching learning, but your previous class was a completely a very active and involving class. Your previous class has been extremely uh, uh, participative class. So to make a class a participative is what the constructivism is talking about. And it is also that participation is based on your own experience as a student, the child's experience and the child's interpretation of the experience. For example, I tell you, I have a 6-year-old grandchild. Now, this 6-year-old grandchild asked my husband one question. He asked my husband that, tell me a story. So my husband was telling a story. He said, I traveled from Chennai to Vizag by flight, he said. He just started when I was traveling. He asked my husband, which flight? So now my husband had to think. He said, okay, it is Air India. He said, no, you're talking about a brand. I'm asking you make. My husband said, what? Tata, when you say you're going by car, okay, do you tell the car four-wheeler or you will tell that you're going by Hyundai or you are going by whatever Benz and all like that? In which aeroplane make did you come? Now my husband had to think. He asked, I did not know. Now the child told that, yeah, did you come by some A320, Boeing, or did you come by Airbus 350? Now, this child's interest is already about his experience is that when he goes to any kind of a car, any kind of a vehicle, he looks into the make. He not the service provider. He looks into the make. And now, tomorrow when I'm sitting and talking to him about more than, less than, I have to use this make and make him experience whatever concept he needs to learn by showing him, you have this many cars and somebody else has this many cars. How many more cars you have in the toys? So now the child is going to experience it through what the child's knowledge is there. Okay, now we are dealing with a very, very nuclear generation who have a lot of knowledge. So their experience is what we have to convert into their learning through their own innovations and interpretations. Okay, that is what is about constructivism, and that makes the learners learn their own learning and take the onus of their learning. They make appropriate decisions and they also assume the hypotheses. And the learners use proper experience to fit new information into pre-existing structures. Scaffolding is the process which helps the peers and or adults to offer support for learning. Appropriate scaffolding we need to give. We cannot say that everybody needs the same. One size doesn't fit all. So as a teacher, we are only standing as a supportive teacher, supportive facilitators. And the intellectual development include the 3 stages. They are inactive stage, which refers to learning through actions, the iconic stage, which refers to the learner's use of pictures or models, and the symbolic stage, which refers to the development of the ability to think in abstract terms. So the entire development of these 3 stages happens beautifully if we use constructivism. And although extrinsic motivation may work in short run, intrinsic motivation has more value. So now what is the approach? How am I going to do it in my classroom? So first I have to define my learning objectives. Then we need to have a guided discovery activity or a task completely on inquiry based. Then explanation of outcomes of task and peer discussion. That is, I'm not explaining as a teacher, but the student has to explain what are his or her experiences, as I told you about the sound experience, sound definitions and how the classes have experienced that. Then Socratic questioning for inferring. We should ask very, very, very inquiry kind of a probing kind of questions to make the child infer come to conclusion of their learnings, omissions of misconcepts, this is the most important part, and allocate more higher order thinking activities, then draw final conclusions, then reflect and feed forward, then go to diagnostic activities. Whatever is our actual topic is there. So if we follow this approach, our entire constructivism happens very beautifully in the class. Now, till now, I hope we understood. Those who are there. Any questions you can ask me, otherwise I'll go further. Any questions? Shall I take it as no questions? Okay. So now, what is that? How is it? What kind of questions to ask when we are doing this constructivism? We are going to ask analytical questions, all why-based questions, all how-based questions, and all judgmental questions, not judging the child. Child's whatever inference we will be talking about. Why do you think this is the one? Don't you think that there can be some other things? How can we actually get into some other conclusion? So these three kinds of questions are absolutely very necessary, and they are typical Socratic questions. This is the base of our constructivism. Once we use this base, then that we are into strong constructive way of learning. The child infers the correct language, and we are giving a feed forward here. We are not giving a feedback here. How better can we do together? What is that you require to think better or to infer? Do you think this inference can be better inference? Can we go for a better choice, better understanding? Can we do together, or do you want to do it alone? Do you need a little more time? All these things are feed forward, telling that, okay, this is a set goal. Let us go. How would you like to do it? It is not that you better do this. Okay, no blunt one. It is together or individually. How would you like to do? And this is the kind of a, thinking, inferring you may have to do, but you please look into it. How did you come to this kind of a conclusion? How do you think this would have happened? Okay, do you need any help in this? Do you need little more time? All these kind of a feed forward to be given, but ask tough questions. Then only the learning happens. So now, what is that which can make this entire constructivism happen well is three kinds of learning: project-based learning, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning. All these three are the best forms of examples for constructivism. One is that anytime project-based learning, when you give a project, it is a multi-dimensional and all subjects, it is multi-subject integration of all subjects happen, and the child experiences in project-based learning, and the child infers, the child gets the data, child analyzes the data, and the child comes to some conclusion in projects, and child presents it. After presenting, the teacher as a facilitator listens, the peers listen, and the peers will also ask questions. It is more of a symposium kind of a presentations happen. Then only the inferences will happen. Typical constructivism is project-based learning. Second one, inquiry-based learning. It is that completely gathering of the information and data, and through this inquiry process, students construct their understanding based on need or want to know. It's more of inquiry, constant questions, constant information gathering will happen. So this makes the children gather, question, discuss amongst with peers, take the feedback from the peers, and then formulate the whole information, then present, then take a feed forward, then again discuss with the peers and come to a conclusion. So complete process of learning happens, and they zeroed in the correct information. So typical example of constructivism is inquiry-based learning. The third one will be problem-based learning, where problem-based learning is another constructivist approach where it is a real-world task. For example, you are all doing already that today we have an acute water problem. So how to solve this water problem? Next 10-15 days, all of you will observe, all of you will come to some kind of a conclusion, and then on so and so day we will have a discussion. So now the child has to understand, child has to do some kind of a research, child has to experience, child has to come to some conclusion and present it. Once the child is presenting, the entire peer group will discuss, because everybody is presenting, everybody is talking, then they will come to some conclusion. Then the teacher gives a complete feed forward, and the teacher also tells them that, okay, that these are all the areas that you have a wrong information, can we actually look into it in a better manner? Then they will again work, and then they will come to a conclusion. It's a real world solution problem which they will find a solution, they will present it. So what is happening? It is their job they have done. So this is a typical constructivist kind of a learning. So these three are the actual examples of constructivism. Okay, so now the question comes. Till now we spoke about constructivism. Now, long back, there was an author called Gudipati Venkatachalam in Andhra. He wrote somewhere in 1920 and all, he wrote a book called Musings. In that he wrote, he was asked to invigilate some children. So he thought for himself, if I'm a teacher and if I have done everything, I have taught everything right, then what am I doing here? I don't need to invigilate. I don't need to assess them with a pen and paper. By now, I should have understood what my children can do. Number one. If I have taught the right values, then I don't need to be here, because yeah. And third thing is that if I have my correct job, it is me who has to be questioned and not my students. Provoking questions he asked in that, and even today, which is very relevant. So now the question comes, why are we assessing? The question that why assess, then all of us are taking a step behind. We have to think, are we assessing the learned, or how much have we taught? How much have we succeeded? Or is it that how much have I succeeded in my job? Okay, so when we are looking into it, we should understand we are assessing the children not on how much have they learned, but as a process that are we on the right track? Is the child learning? And if not, what is that I need to do? Yeah, and that is what is a diagnostic activity. Okay, the diagnostic activity, look into, are we on the right track? If not, what am I going to do? What is my class component talking about? My teaching learning, did it go in the right way? So to do all these things, only the assessment comes. So the assessment, how important is it when you see, it is more intended on the learning outcomes. And we are also going only based on the application of the learning outcomes. So there are three types of assessments. All of you know that assessment for learning, as learning, and off learning. And if you look for learning, it is assesses students' progress and learning needs. And as learning, it is about students' their learning. And off learning is assess what students have already learned. Okay. Now, when you look at it, when you are going for a constructivism, then you need to use all the three, but mostly onto the formative, mostly onto looking into diagnostic, mostly onto projects. So how to go about it? So now this many are there, which can be used as a tool for learning. Diagnostic assessments, formative assessments, summative assessments, ipsative assessments, norm reference assessments, and criterion referenced assessments. This many kind of assessments are there which can be used as a learning tool. So how are we using this in constructivism? If you see, these are diagnostic. Student interviews and reflections. So if at all you have done hot seating, the hot seating is one of the best tool in constructivism. Okay, you make the child sit in the hot seat, and the remaining children will be asking those 10 questions, which are on child's experience, a typical hot seating. And short quizzes, all of you know, graphic organizers, you know, group discussion, mind maps, journal entries, flow charts, and what I know, what I want to know, and what have I learned. That is that actually the KWL charts. And if you use these things, these are typical tools to make the child use the knowledge the child has learned through the experience, and for you to diagnose the child's learning outcome, the level of understanding, and how we are going to take it further. This is one of the fantastic tool all of us can use, and it is very easy. It doesn't take much of your time. It is very fun filled, and I hope that all of you look into this with the same zeal you go for other things. And all these are very short, maximum 15 minutes to 20 minutes you can take, or maximum 40 minutes you can take, depending upon the class, but you have the complete diagnostic, you will get a diagnosis of your classroom based on that learning outcome you are assessing on. And this is also for your constructive learning, whether the child has gathered enough of the knowledge, whether the child has had the correct experience, could infer the correct kind of a feedback. Now the second one, formative assessments. Lot of virtual tours, I don't need to tell you. Report and dialogue writings, portfolios, projects, entry exit tickets, we call it as entry and exit assessments, short and regular quizzes, debates, declamations. All these things are actually formative in nature, and all these things will make a child learn through the assessment, because for any of these things, the child need to have a previous experience and knowledge. Then only the child can come to this level of participating in this particular activity, which is an assessment by nature, but which is a tool to learn. I think all of you are able to understand. Any questions? Any questions? Do we have audience or we do not have? Because I'm not able to see anybody. Shall I go further?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The next one is, so what are these IPSATAT assessments, which are very, new name for many of us, inclusive of me, till I'm doing right in finding out, then I understood what is this. They are about that compares the previous result with the second try, motivating the students to set goals and improve their skills. This is one of the most amazing tool which actually fits in for the constructivism. It is a two-stage assessment. Did you see the entire mind map there? If you see, you have assessment 1 and the feed forward. So this assessment 1 can be any kind of an activity which you do, okay? Then the teacher gives a feed forward, okay? Based on the assessment, you achieved here, you did not achieve here. How better can we do, okay? And come afterwards, she or he will again conduct another assessment. When they conduct another assessment, again a feed forward is given. Now, between 1 and 2, the feedback and comparing of assessment 1 and 2 happens. And wherever a help is required, wherever mitigating of the misconceptions are there, it will be done. Then they will go to the third assessment. Again, it will be a feedback comparing the assessments of 2 and 3. So what happens is the child's growth, learning growth is seen in a beautiful manner when we are having this feedback, comparing, feed forward, and the growth chart will be seen through this. This is one of the best ways to look into a child's growth chart, and this is a best tool, especially when we are using the constructivism. So now, the best examples for this are PBL activities, that is project-based learning activities, creative writings, portfolios, and these are the actual examples that you can use when the child is doing, especially now all the CBSE schools are in portfolio. The portfolio feedback is very important, and the feedback should be given by the peer, by the teacher, and to do a better job, so that the next presentation of the child does a better job, and then again a feedback comes. So this is a best way to go And if that is whatever we are doing now as a portfolio is called IPSTAT assessment. All our PBLs and creative writing are that only. As I said, there is a jargon of words, and today we understood what is the meaning of the jargon. Okay. So now criterion is that it is a comparison of the score of an individual to a learning standard and performance level independent of other students. It is not compared with X with Y and Z, but is X's performance. Okay. And that is learning standard of X. And whether the child reached that learning standard or not is actually criterion based. And norm referenced is it's more with compare an individual to a group and their peers and all, because it is more for those GRE, SAT, your Olympiads, all that fall under norm referenced. That means all your IQ tests, physical assessments, ACER, Olympiad, all those things come under norm referenced. So now I'm coming to the main topic of ours, how to use this entire assessment. So conversation between the teacher and learners with peers is an assessment. That means your inquiry-based conversations must happen. The student must ask the teacher must ask the student, and the peers must question their peers, and that is a complete mode of assessment. So with this, what is that skill we can assess is, how is the child, what is the child questioning? How is the child questioning? Why is the child questioning? What is that the child is expecting? And what is the learning outcome based on that? Is the child having the objective? What is the cognitive level of that particular question? Look down based on this. We are actually assessing thinking skills, spoken skill, understanding, self-assessment, and peer assessment ability. Then what is the tool the teacher is doing? Teacher is making a note of it and giving a feed forward. After that, the teacher also goes to next level of assessment. Here is observation. So when observation is happening, what is the teacher observing in this kind of a tool is that, how is the child planning and drafting, and giving a hands-on task. Okay. Then critical thinking based assessments, jobs, and whether the child is able to collaborate and is the child participating. So the assessment tool used here are the checklists which are done by the children, anecdotal records, and based on this, the teacher observes and the teacher uses this for the feed forward. So products is that written work, projects, performance tasks, quizzes, MCQs, use of technology, and assessment rubrics and rating scales are actually the typical tools for this kind of an assessment. So what is this all about? In constructivism, evidence of learning is very important. So first, conversations happen, observations happen, and the products come. Then what happens? The whole evidence of learning is given. Based on that, the teacher is giving a feed forward. Based on the feed forward, the child is developing himself or herself. Based on that, again, the teacher is having a review and reflection and coming to a conclusion that the child has attained the expected learning outcome or not. Okay, so this is the whole thing, the assessment cycle. First thing is that it is to design, then implement the design, gather evidences, analyze and evaluate, identify the gaps, make decisions, and define and redefine the learning objectives. First, start.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm so sorry to interfere in between but I had a doubt in the previous slide.
Yeah.
Ma'am, what is the self-assessment? How it can be conducted as the children can self-assess themselves?
And that is a very important question you have asked, beta. Self-assessment is that now there is an expected learning outcome. Okay. So
yes,
expected learning outcome, today you go to the class. Okay. Like again, I take the example of the sound, the way the teacher went to the class. Okay. So now when you go to the class, you know that you are teaching about sound and you are having a different kind of a experience which is going to happen. You will ask all the children to write some answers for some five questions. Okay. The 5 questions is that I know about it. Okay. I do not know about it. This is where I went behind that KWL charts.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a typical self-assessment. Okay. That what do I know? What I want to know? And what is my expected learning? Did I learn it or not? Okay. That is what is a typical self-assessment. Okay. This is for learning. Now, second self-assessment is there that I have set for myself. Okay. My strength, my weakness, my opportunity, my threats. Now my
SWOT analysis.
SWOT analysis. When I'm doing my SWOT analysis, that itself is one self-assessment of me. And then I will write down below that to overcome my weakness and threat, I am going to do 1 or 2, 3 things. And before I reach this stage, I will first assess myself. What is that I'm assessing myself? What are my strengths? Okay, what are my opportunities? What are my threats? This is, I'm assessing already. I'm knowing. Then based on that, I'm also writing, what am I going to do to overcome? These two, I have created an assessment to know what is my strength. I also created one solution to know what am I going to do to overcome this. Okay.
Ma'am, can it be like if numericals are problem in physics, so numericals can be the weakness, and then how we can work on the numericals to achieve it?
Definitely. See, numericals are not the threat or weakness. The weakness is that scared
Calculation.
of us, calculations, or scared of logical thinking. Okay, that my weakness is that the moment 4 numbers are there, I'll give you a classic example. There was a person in who was living in hostel. Okay, this is a classic example of this, whatever you asked, that numerical scare, no? That he, before examinations, he used to, in university, Andhra University, okay, he, it seems every time before exams, he used to have a dream that one small A comes, okay, that A, alphabet A becomes huge and fall on him. Then the letter B comes. That also become very huge and fall on him. Like that, all little till Z will come and fall on him and he'll get buried under that. This was his constant dream. Till he identified actually he's getting scared of the assessments or examinations, paper pen. Now, this is his identification of problem. Okay, now what is this boy's identification? It is not numerical problem. The child's problem is logical thinking associated with the numericals. Okay, so when the child is able to pen it down that in physics, the logical thinking is what is troubling me, then you as a teacher, you already understood what the child wants to know, what the child wants to learn, and how you want to guide the child. You understood better?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome. I'm happy somebody asked a question. Otherwise, I think I'm actually teaching a screen, you know. Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry to interrupt here, ma'am. So that self-assessment, it can't be like for primary children, no? Will they be?
It can be, ma. See, I tell you, this I gave for a senior class, for a grade 1 child. Okay? You ask a grade 1 child, I tell you, they have great, thinking than any one of us because they have no blinders. So you ask a grade 1 child, okay, what is that you want to be? Okay, so first he will tell that he wants to be, I know that a child told me that he wants to be a garbage truck driver. Okay, now the parents have fallen apart, but that particular time the child wanted to be a garbage truck driver. For what reason? The garbage truck is huge.
Clean the garbage.
No, first thing is it is huge. Okay? This little one's control of a huge truck is a major challenge to him. So he is thinking that he can become. Now I told the parent that only don't fall apart. Now he is looking at the size of it, number 1. Number 2, on the garbage truck, somewhere it is written some brand. That brand would have been very, very attractive to him. Third thing is, I and you do not know, maybe one of the cartoon character is actually driving a garbage truck. We don't know. So now you ask the child, okay, why do you, if you want to become a garbage truck driver, very good. What should you do? Okay, then I should learn driving. Very good. When can you learn driving? Okay, so see, you are making the child think and assess his own strengths by asking these questions.
Okay, then we have to help them also. They can't be self.
We have to ask very, very, leading questions to make them think. Then
we have to make them curious, and they have to ask. So little help is needed at that stage.
But
Wow.
little help is not a leading help. It cannot be this help saying that, okay, you cannot be a garbage truck driver. You cannot drive. Okay, it stinks. No such kind of a information. Wow, very good. What? Okay, no, to
Giving positive acknowledgement.
just asking, wow, very good. How will you drive that? Do you know driving? No. I need to learn driving. When will you learn driving? And then he'll say, tomorrow I will go. Then he'll say, no, actually, no, now they don't teach the children. You have to become big. How big you need to become. So this is a very positive reinforcement you are giving. You are spending time. That is what is a feed forward. Okay,
At that time, we will make them to ask.
Yes. And now that you are talking about transport, this is a very of leading them from self-assessment to the KWL to your entire concept of your transport.
Yeah.
Okay?
Ma'am, one more thing, ma'am.
Yeah.
So much.
Ma'am, can this be an example of peer assessment? Like I have given a rubrics to my class students and I have asked the children to present a role play. So every child coming and speaking in front and their friends are marking them on the basis of rubrics. So can this be a peer assessment?
Definitely. If you have set rubrics,
Yeah.
very positive that your set rubrics are talking about the content, the performance, okay, the presentation, okay, whatever is the objective of the whole role play. That if at all that role play is talking about pendulum movement, and if I am talking about history which has no pendulum at all, then it is that the whole concept went away, no? So you
Yes,
have,
yes.
if you have set rubrics which are very appropriate for your learning outcome, and then the 5 or 10 students who are 25 students are assessing the child, then they are giving a very positive feed forward, positive feedback. They are saying that your performance is very good, but actually you should have shown more of the moment because pendulum static, pendulum moment.
Yes.
Have shown that in your performance, you would have received, you would have reached, you attained your learning outcome. If anybody can give such a, that we need to lead the children into, then it is a specific, very typical peer assessment because it is a child who is giving to the child. It is not you who is giving. But
Yes.
we need to prepare the children, the whole class, giving a positive reinforcement, positive feedback, and giving them a guidance, okay, wherever they go wrong. Like if I'm standing, like we all say that I give a classic example that when you make any fantastic recipe, okay, normally I use non-vegetarian because many is non-vegetarian. So I'll say you made chicken 65 and you served your family and they say that you can do better.
Yes.
What will be your reaction?
Ma'am, there can be many. I can take it as an insult or I can take it as a challenge to improve.
Yeah. Now, first thing happens is we all take it as an insult.
Insult.
Okay, can do better, or you only do it. But otherwise, you say, what do you mean we can do better? There is salt, there is pepper, there is masala, everything. Tell me what is not there. Specification. So now for the children also, we should tell them, don't say that you can do better, but tell them where you can do better, what you can do better, and what you need to do better. Then that is becoming a complete positive feedback. So if your children are taught that, that's the best way of peer assessment.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. It's a
So
pleasure.
here you are encouraging them to participate in group activities also, so that they will learn how to
Definitely.
cope with all the emotions.
Definitely. And in fact, that makes the class more encouraging,
Interactive.
involving. And you know, like yesterday only I heard from somebody working on it. They told me that today 99% of the people are suffering not because of COVID, but not because of not having a place for dialogue. Specific word.
Very true, ma'am. I agree with that.
And I said, no, sir, the classes are given. We have the breakout rooms. He said, Sharda, madam, when I'm talking about dialogue, it is not the dialogue of one person. Every group has one dominant person, stops others from talking. So that is the dialogue I'm talking. Your children are having this problem. I want you to look into this. This is a very fantastic feedback I got. Then I thought I should work on this, because everybody in every group, there are 3 who do not talk, and they need the space to talk. That is what is giving opportunity for dialogue. In our classrooms, we have at least 5 children who are not getting that opportunity to talk, opportunity to participate, opportunity to give a feedback, because either they are scared of giving feedback, or they are scared of talking, or they are not given the opportunity because they are very silent by nature. So
introvert maybe.
yeah.
Want
So
to
we need to look into this, and this kind of activities will make everybody participate. Okay. So this is the assessment cycle. So how are we going to do? First, set your learning outcomes, then provide learning opportunities. This is very, very important. That is through experience, and assess a student learning. Use the result for your entire reflections for feed forward, so that you will make the child attain the learning outcomes. So what is the social constructivism is about? It is student centered, it is very authentic, it is a group learning, it is about sharing ideas, it is a pre-existing knowledge is being done, and real world practical learning is happening. Guide on the side, and we are not the main stage one. We are only the ones who are standing at the side, and the child is on the center of the stage of the classroom. And situated learning is happening, interactive learning, and student construct their own knowledge. And for this, diagnostic activities and formative activities, both are the tools, and they are the tools to make this constructivism happen. So assessment means take entire project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, problem-based learning, all the 3, and use different kind of formative and diagnostic tools, and then your classroom will be most vibrant, and your children will be coming with more questions, which will make you learn more and more, and which will make you smiling from one year to other. So this is about constructivism is with development, considers zone of proximal development and impacts on constructive knowledge. It has different learning goals and requires process-based evaluation. And it requires different pedagogical approaches and include multiple perspectives, situated cognition, reflexive cognition, and cognitive apprenticeship. So the tools are define intended learning outcomes, formulate learning opportunities, assist student learning, feed forward the results. So definitely define your LO, formulate experiential activities, assess to learn, reflect, feed forward. Somebody is drawing on the screen very well. Okay. Lot of scratches are coming. I don't know whoever, if it is a kid, yes, I'm enjoying it. Then, so as a teacher, what you need to do? Your job is to include development of all the 3 domains through your teaching learning processes. That is in constructivism also, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, all the things. Okay. And to enable the learner to acquire more skills, to make students integrate all the learnings, to create and find solutions, and to ensure the effective and holistic participation of students through differential learning processes. So it is based on the background knowledge, connected to new knowledge, student-centered. Students learn how to learn, and teacher. Then what it is not is it is not at all teacher-centered. And start with a problem in your kids' problem your kids find relevant. Use interdisciplinary exploration, develop HOTs, and use primary sources. And it is very collaborative in nature. Thank you so much. I ran through so that I will not be holding you for a long time. And I hope I did my job so that I will not be holding you for long. Any questions, please?
Ma'am, this is Achal again.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it was a great session that I have attended today, and I wish that if you could, I could get an access to similar kind of sessions again in future regarding assessment and all. The concepts are very clear. I don't have any question as such because I already asked in between.
Thank you.
I just want to appreciate, ma'am. I'm really touched. I was just what to say, gazing at you constantly for 1 hour. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And any questions? Because I know from morning, all of you have been listening, all of you have been attending. And I'm really thankful to IIM. I love to talk to people. Some people are born to talk, so I'm one among them with a big mouth. And I'm so happy that all of you are with big ears, so that you heard and you took it into your mind and heart. Anytime, if IIM and me are ready, then we are ready to give more and more such sessions. No problem at all. Priya?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for that wonderful session. And
Hello?
I personally, yes, because we are not from the teaching background, every single session that we have come across teaches us something new that we can always take back. So thanks to you for that lovely talk and that wise words. We'll definitely put it into practice, which will definitely help us.
Yeah, there are certain questions. I think we should take them.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ma'am, good evening, Sharda ma'am. Thoroughly
Yeah.
enjoyed your session.
Thank
Your
you.
anecdotes and the little stories, as always, sustained our interest. That was really brilliant. Ma'am, I just missed out, one particular slide that had an acronym because of connectivity issue. If you could
Okay.
just share that.
Definitely. I'll
Yeah.
do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
At all. Yeah. Which one it is? I'll just run it so that you will know.
I think it's some IP. I didn't get that because there was a connectivity issue.
IPSAT assessment, I guess.
Ah,
Yeah, exactly.
IPSAT, yes. That's actually, I'm telling you, one of the best things. I loved that, yes, when I was doing a little bit of a research on this is what, actually, this is one of the best things anybody can look in, because it is actually look into this. It talks about, you take an assessment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And after you take an assessment, that is that pre-introductory activities, you give an experiential learning kind of a activity, then you give it forward, okay? And then you take another assessment. The assessment is more for like, again, another diagnostic. Then you compare your assessment 1 with 2. That is, again, I'm giving that sound example only because that's an easier one. You have made the child make sound, and you made the child come to a conclusion how the child made now. Nice. Now, the child said that I actually clapped my 2 hands. So the sound came. So you asked a question, feed forward, that if you do this, how did it happen? Think. Okay. So the child thought, and he said that there must be something which is creating. So you asked a question, what is that something? So then you took a kind of, you made one child take one polythene cover, and you hit that, filled with air, hit it. Then one part sound came. So you asked a question, how did the sound come? Okay. And then the child said that, yeah, there must be air. So now the journey of the child from here to here, okay, with your feed forward, asking very inquiry-based, very leading question, you comparing the child's performance in the first assessment and second assessment, then again giving a feed forward and going to the next assessment, drawing the child's learning growth, showing that where the child was in the beginning and where the child was at the end of this particular concept learning. Through this, it is called ipsative assessments.
Beautiful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And this really, I tell you, I'm thrilled when I was going through this because we do take this up. But I tell you very openly, I'm also a learner in many ways. And so whenever I see something new, I get thrilled. I get very elated. This was one of the things when I was making this entire PPT, gave me that elation that, wow, what a way to teach, I thought. What a way to facilitate the child.
Lovely, lovely. Ma'am, you're being very modest, I must say. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, here you are giving at the same time, you are giving the feedback and you are encouraging the child in this process, right?
Yes.
Both are going together, hand in hand.
Now, how can we differentiate feedback and feed away? I'm
Feed forward.
confused about these 2 terms. Feed forward. Sorry.
Feedback is like, for example, I want to give Shaheen Bashir ma'am feedback. So I'll tell Shaheen Bashir ma'am is very good in linguistic skills. Okay. Shaheen Bashir ma'am can give, ask this very right questions. Okay. And she needs to maybe develop in these areas, 1, 2, 3. This is a feedback. Okay.
Okay.
I'm Shaheen Bashir ma'am. If I give feed forward, I will sit with Shaheen Bashir ma'am and I'll say, okay, you and me are talking now. Tell me that this is your end target in your classroom, you know. So now, how do you think that we can achieve that? Or how do you need any support in that? Or do you want to do it alone or do you want support? Okay, then can we, then you will tell me that, okay, ma'am, these are all the areas that I want to add. Okay, very good, fantastic. Like as I told you with that truck driver, whatever is the garbage truck. Very good.
Right.
What are we doing? In feed forward, we are giving a very positive reinforcement on one-on-one. Okay. And when we are doing this one-on-one, what is the confidence we are giving to the child is that you're right, you're going on the right track. And here, and like a potter, no? What does the potter do? The potter corrects whenever the pot goes into the wrong shape. Am I right? Otherwise, the wheel is turning. And we are actually putting our hand, we are giving the confidence to the pot that the pot is actually forming by itself.
Yes.
We are asking the pot, we are asking the pot what shape you want to come into. Do you want my help in that shaping? Do you want anything else in that shaping? This is your end goal. We are telling them.
Right, ma'am, right. That means we can say that we have to learn and we have to see where is improvement is possible. Is it?
Yeah.
Can we take it like this?
Yeah. See what you are saying. What I'm saying is by end of this class, I expect all my class children to learn the concept of the entire physical features of the Krishna, okay, or the world. Now they should know why this is different from this. This is the learning outcome, and they also have to use it the moment they see what is the landform in there where they are living. These are all my learning outcomes. Now I will come to my class and I'll tell them that this is the expected learning outcome. Now let us see, how are we going to learn this? How many of you have seen anything about it? Now how do we like to learn? Today, what will we do? From there, constantly I will be asking them question which is very positive for them. They'll say that, no, we would like to go out and see. Or somebody may say that I would like to go to Himalayas today to see. Then we will say that, no, like we will look for a achievable target. Okay, let us look into very achievable target, whatever we can do. So what happens is that when I'm going with a specific questionnaire, which is not a very leading questionnaire, but I have something in my mind that this is the learning outcome, but I'm making my children go with that kind of questions, which will make by the end of the class, they have learned already. But they are talking about it. The moment you go with this to a 4th standard or 3rd standard, and you tell them that, okay, going to Himalayas is very difficult. But what we will do is that, okay, shall we go out and see? And then somebody will ask, what is physical feature, ma'am? Then we will say that, can anyone tell me what can be the physical feature? Okay. So then from there, I'm only putting them into inquiry, but at the same time, I'm asking them the question, how are we going to learn this? Are we going to learn through discussion? Are we going to learn through watching a video? Are we going to learn through by going there, experiencing it? What is that we can do? And after reaching there, did we reach there? And if we have not reached it there, what can we do? Would you like to do all alone? Or would you want the whole team to do? Would you want a small team to do? And a feed forward is giving a very positive feedback. At the same time, telling them
reinforcement, ma'am.
Enforcement, positive enforcement. At the same time, telling them that, okay, you are on the right track, but you can also do a little bit like this. It's a very fantastic tool. In larger groups, you need to do it. It becomes slightly difficult, but in smaller groups, it works effectively. It works beautifully. It is never that you do it. It is not just a statement. It is a continual process. Exactly.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
But I think it takes too much of time, like discussing and with talking with the students, and as per the plans which we set out for lesson plans and everything, that will not tally if we continue taking the lessons in this way. What you said is usually very good. We must continue in that way, but like
Pati ma'am, I want to ask you a question.
yes, ma'am.
There is a specific learning outcome requirement, age appropriate. Okay. So
Mhm.
when you look into even NEP or when you look into CEP, when you look into any board, there is a specific learning age appropriate learning outcome. Now, whatever is given in the textbook, it is a tool to
Correct.
attain that learning outcome. Okay. Now, you keep this tool aside. Okay. Like I will tell you in an easier format. Okay. That we have a specific objective in a day. Okay. That in the kitchen, there is a specific objective that so much of a food per day has to be cooked. Yeah.
Okay.
For a family of 5, the food has to be cooked. Now, that is the basic objective. And what kind of food to be cooked? Edible food, enjoyable food should be cooked. Okay, that is the objective. And out now, in this objective, whatever is the process you use, tool you use, that will not be talking about whether you need to use a chula, whether you will use a gas stove, whether you use an induction stove, nothing happens. By the this kitchen's objective is to serve food for this many people. That's a cook's objective is that. Our learning outcome is that. Learning outcome is there. That by the end, this age appropriate, this much of a learning outcome should be there, minimum. You want to go on that higher, no problem. Now, your textbook is only a tool. Now, if you attain this using this tool, okay, okay, that is syllabi completion. But you have this and your tool you did not use. You used another tool called constructivism. Okay. The constructivism, like you are teaching class 6. And in class 6, they are learning about time and distance. By the end of that chapter, the child needs to know where to use this time and distance concept. Should be able to use, should be able to apply, should be able to synthesize, should be able to critically think and create a solution for 100 problems. That is the learning outcome. Okay. Now, you don't use the textbook which is given by Ratnasagar or anybody. I'm sorry, I'm one publisher.
Okay.
Any publisher, keep it aside. But you created your own learning tool. And in that learning tool, there is a constructivism with a feed forward. Okay. Now, what you do attain in 10 days with one textbook tool, with your constructivism, in 3 days you will attain. The remaining 7 days will be only a practice.
Okay. We must plan it out accordingly.
Normally what happens, beta? We will get boggled down by the textbook which we bought. And the textbook when we bought, I'm telling you in an open forum, it is not only your problem. It is also the problem of the school, problem of the parent, because parent says that I have put 300 rupees and bought the textbook. So it is your responsibility from page 1 to page end, you know, that end bye-bye good. And the cover page came till then there to teach. Okay. Now, you as a your school has a problem of answering that parent and the principal. So I know. Then what I will tell them, what is your problem? By the end of this, the child has to learn this. Now, the tool I'm going to use. Now, whether my teacher is using all that pages which are there or teacher is not using, by the end of this year, if your child doesn't understand all the concepts in this, then I'm answerable. Yeah. So that time when we reach, no, then it will not come, because ultimately after 10 years, your students come back to you and tell you, Haimavati ma'am, I love you the way you taught me, ma'am. Nobody else can teach me like that. And you are somewhere, you don't remember them. I love the way that feedback and feed forward you gave, ma'am. Love you. They will tell you, no, you feel Miss Universe.
Happiness is different. Yes, very.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that you will go with your nose high in the air. No Sushmita's can make to that day. Yeah. So
Yeah.
to make that feel happen, we
Okay.
need to type, put this, whatever is boggling us down, and go with this openness. I tell you, 40 years I'm in this education field. Okay. Sometimes my students whom I don't even recognize in airports, in bus stands, in some places, they come fall at my feet. I won't even know who are they. They say, Sharda ma'am, remember you taught us how that India map? Ma'am, nobody can teach. Like, love you, ma'am. And this girl was calling her husband, come here. I told you about Sharda ma'am, no? She's the now I get very thrilled at that this happened at the Delhi airport. The security was looking at me. The whole lot of people were looking here on my feet. There are two youngsters. And I did not know, I was crying with the thrill I had. So that's what I'm saying.
Oh, great, ma'am. Even we would like to go through that way.
It
Go
will
ahead. Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any more questions or can we conclude?
Ma'am, really, see, you are having lots of patience, ma'am. The way you answer to all of our questions, no, we can understand how children will be attached to you.
I am attached to all.
Ma'am, I think Nagalakshmi ma'am has some question.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Nagalakshmi ma'am.
Lakshmi ma'am, can't hear you.
Ma'am, if you can put your question in the chat box.
I am not able to hear her.
No, ma'am. We're not able to hear. Ma'am, you can put your question in the chat box.
Okay, thank you so much. And Nagalakshmi ma'am's question has come.
Is portfolio necessary?
Is portfolio necessary? Ma'am, it is very much necessary. Why it is very necessary, I tell you. Many of us do not know to project ourselves. When we look into the world market, world of the jobs, when our children go out, one thing they lack is to project them, their skills, their abilities, and what they are best at to the people they are lacking. So portfolio is meant for that. It is about self-assessment. It is about looking into the requirement, self-needs, and how to take the feedback, how to accept the peer feedback, how to take the peer assessment, how to collaborate to work, and how to project my best work to the world. So this is what portfolio teaches. So yeah, portfolio is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Okay, ma'am? Yeah. So thank you so much. And I think I'll say Jai Hind and I'll leave this platform. And you're all doing a fantastic job, darlings. And I love this, all the participants for their enthusiasm. And they give me a kick, I tell you, that I'll go back flying in spite of my 90 kilo weight. You know, that is the best thing they have done to me. And love you all, darlings. Take care. Bye-bye. And bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. One more being with you, one more session.
Can we all unmute ourselves and give a big round of applause to Sharda ma'am, please? The session that she has, energetic session that she has.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.